Very good morning to you of yours. We are here. Indeed, it is Thursday. Good morning, good morning, good morning. I hope you are doing fine. You're already up and about doing things that matter to you. Insan Sakache Lo. So wake up and be excited about the day, and it should be good to you. Today I have a very, very special person accompanying me, Zipporah.
The community journalist.
Indeed. Whatever she's doing here, only God knows. But you will definitely know as the program goes on. Of course, as usual, we will look at the morning markets. We'll look at the health corner as well as the morning boost. Let's just go straight into the morning boost for now.
Hello guys, it's your boy Harrison, aka the Fitness Papi, here at Choice Fitness Gym. Before I go any further, remember that we have fitness attire for both males and females. So guys, today I am going to show you the two types of stretch we basically do in the gym. So there are two types of stretch we definitely demonstrate when we are about to lift or we're done lifting. These are, one is dynamic stretch and two is static type of stretch. So I'm going to demonstrate and which part of stretch exercise you have to partake after or before the exercise. Okay, I'm going to do a crossover type of stretch. So a crossover like this. So why do you have to do this type of stretch? And when should you do this type of stretch? Okay, we do this type of stretch when we are about to exercise. That's when we do this type of stretch. And why? Because this type of stretch, it's a motion, it's more like an exercise on its own, so it improves the performance. That's one, the reason. And it also increases the ROM, that's the range of motion. It's a crossover. So for this, I'm going to go again for this one. It's also a crossover. So now this one goes with the counting. I just have to count, maybe it's one from 10 or 1 from 30, depending. So this type of stretch, it's actually done when you are done with your exercise. Because this type of stretch actually stretches your muscles and it also helps you with the muscle recovery. So we go again. We are doing a butt kick. So this kind of stretch also is called butt kick. It's also an exercise, but it's also the stretch. So this one, it's done when you are about to do your exercise. And similar, we can go for the guts tricep stretch. So this one is similar to the butt kick. So this one is actually done when you are done with your exercise. Like I said earlier on, it really helps you with the muscle recovery. But the dynamic stretch, it really helps you with the performance. It really boosts up the performance. Just take for instance, you're about to go for a marathon. Can you just sit at home and waiting for the marathon to take place, then that's when you are going to participate? No, you have to do some bit of jogging in order for you to get yourself in the system. So it's similar to the same one. You can't do a static stretch when you want to go in for the exercise. You do the static stretch after the exercise. But they have one thing in common. That one thing in common which the two both have, it's they help in flexibility. That's all for today, guys. You've been with me, Harrison, aka the Fitness Puppy, here at Chon's Fitness Gym. Remember, we also have the fitness attire for both gender, and we also offer discounts for students, group of 5, as well as a couple. It would be fun, you know, coming to the gym with your husband. Bye bye.
All right, there you have it, the Fitness Puppy there from Chose Gym. Sephora, do you go to the gym?
Well, I did enjoy following Fitness Puppy.
I mean, in the activity itself.
Every day.
Yeah.
Not every day, but I do, you know, some exercise at home.
Why? When last did you do that?
Yesterday.
I don't think
no,
so.
I do it mostly every time when I knock off from work.
Ask Elias, Isaac, and Elijah what happens to them for not
when they play sports. Yeah,
exactly.
But I do follow sometimes, you know, but not regularly. But sometimes I follow, you know, these YouTube tutorials which show maybe how to
in the house.
Yes, in the house. It works if it's consistent.
Wow. Those people who dance. You see, they're very common on social media. You know, people who dance, like they call it intermittent fasting, all those things. But however, you too can join in this 5 minutes workout every morning here on Camnet TV, just to keep yourselves at least fit, start your day on a healthier note. Talking about healthier notes, though, let's look at what the doctors have for us this morning on the Health Corner.
Hi, good morning and welcome to the Health Corner here on the Breakfast Show. I am Dr. Nakubena Mfaya. So this week we are talking about tuberculosis, and yesterday we were talking about some of the signs and symptoms of tuberculosis. We say that TB can present as a patient who has a cough for about 2 or more weeks, and also they might have chest pain, fever, and they might also have night sweats as well. So they would be sweating so much at night such that their bodies or their clothes would get wet, and even their beddings. Then the other symptoms are that they would have fatigue and weight loss as well, and depending on which other parts of their body are affected, they would present as such. So if it's the back, they would have back pain. If it's the brain that has been affected, they would have confusion, coma, they might have seizures, and they would also have a headache. So today we'll talk about how is TB diagnosed and treated in the hospital. Now, there are quite a number of tests that can be done, but there's usually just one test that is needed to be able to confirm that you have TB, and we call this AFB culture. So the patient will be asked to produce sputum, preferably the sputum that is produced very early in the morning. So when you produce the sputum and it's taken to the lab, they would need to culture it to see if there's any bacterial growth on that culture. And if there's bacterial growth, then it confirms that indeed you have the bacteria, or you're infected with tuberculosis. So after the confirmation test has been done, then you would need to start treatment. Now, there are some times when people do not have there are some times when people would have the classic symptoms and they would have to do a chest x-ray. So even when you only have the chest x-ray and the classic symptoms of TB, you can be started on the treatment for TB. So usually on chest x-ray, people with TB would have certain signs that show that someone is infected with TB that would look abnormal on chest x-ray. So depending on what type of chest x-ray it is, there would be some changes on the chest x-ray that would show that someone has been infected with TB. However, for patients who have HIV, sometimes they might not have any chest x-ray changes. So you might not really see any changes on the chest x-ray. And sometimes they might already have some of the symptoms of this TB, so they might be presenting with the chest pain, the coughing, the night sweats, the fevers, and they don't have any chest x-ray changes. They would still be started on TB treatment depending on whether there's a high suspicion of TB, maybe somebody was in contact with somebody else who had TB. So you might be started on this medication based on suspicion, because we don't want you to stay in that period where you are infected, so you can easily transmit the infection to other people. So we want to be able to treat it as soon as possible. But they would still be required to send some samples to the lab for culture to be able to confirm whether there is TB or not. So there's also what we call Gene Expert. Gene Expert is a test that can be done to check if you have TB, and if the Gene Expert comes out positive, also you would need to be started on the treatment for TB. There's also what we call urine TB lump. TB lump can be done very easily, and it can also show that you have TB, even though it's not a very reliable marker, because it might be a false positive if the results are positive, because there are other microbacterium that can be also that can show on the urine TB lump. So urine TB lump is not very reliable. But if you do a Gene Expert and it's positive, then you are supposed to be started on TB medication, and you still need to do a culture to confirm the diagnosis, because it's only on culture that we can be able to tell that indeed you have TB when the bacteria grows in the lab on the culture. So these are ways that TB can be diagnosed, and these are ways that TB can be seen, whether it's a Gene Expert or a chest x-ray, or just from the symptoms that you are presenting with, there's high suspicion that you might be having TB. Now, how is TB treated? So depending on whether it's a new case or a relapse, you would be treated differently. And also depending on which part of the body is affected, you'll be treated as such. So usually the treatment is a 6-month course. So you'll be given treatment for about six months. And during these 6 months, you'll be given some tablets that you have to be taking. So usually in the first 2 months, you take about 4 or 5 tablets, and in the other 4 months, you take less tablets, which are antibacterial medications, and also some vitamins to be able to counteract some of the side effects of these medications. Then also, if you have TB of the brain, for example, you would need to take this medication for even a longer period, even up to 1 year, because of the way the brain is structured. So depending on where it is, you'll be given a time frame that you need to take these medications. Sometimes it might just be 9 months. If it's other organs that are affected, like the kidneys, you might just need to take the medication for about 9 months. So the time period is very long, and so you need to be able to adhere to these medications. And sometimes if you're having trouble or problems adhering to these medications, you can always talk to your care providers, and they would be able to assist you to be taking these medications. So they might have somebody that can be checking on you to make sure that you are taking your medications correctly and at the right time, and you're adhering every day to taking these medications. So these are ways that TB can be treated, and we only have certain drugs that we use for TB. So it's not just all the antibiotics or any antibiotic that can be used for TB. There are specific types of antibiotics that are used for TB. And so if you have TB, make sure you seek treatment so that you can get the right type of medications to use. Then also for people that might have a relapse of TB, they might be having multi-drug resistant TB. So this TB has become resistant to the medications that we use for TB. And so we usually start them on a certain other types of medications that we have specifically been given for multi-drug resistant TB. So if you have multi-drug resistant TB, you can be given other medications, but first you need to be confirmed that you actually have resistant TB and just be started on these medications. So I do hope you have learned something. Make sure that you seek treatment. If you know somebody who has HIV, if you're living with somebody who has other risk factors like diabetes and they're having these symptoms, make sure you take them early to the hospital so that they can be diagnosed early and treated early and prevent other people from getting infected as well. So make sure that you also watch, if you have missed any other episodes on this Health Corner, make sure you watch on my YouTube channel, which is Dr. Nakubena Mfaya, or if you have any questions, you can reach out to me on my Facebook page, which is Dr. Nakubena Mfaya, and make sure that you subscribe to my channel as well on YouTube if you haven't subscribed as yet. I'll see you again tomorrow. Make sure that you stay healthy and stay blessed.
Quite an insightful discussion there from the doctor, and as you have heard, she was giving us, tips about how to combat tuberculosis, and she emphasized on persons living with HIV and AIDS, stating that this is one of the symptoms that manifest tuberculosis, and so early treatment is important, as you have heard there from the doctor, and it is important to put what the doctor has said into practice, otherwise it is not going to be of any use. Sharon, maybe what were some of your takeaway points?
Indeed,
from there?
TB, as we always say, like this week she's been talking about it. Tuberculosis, it's we call it TB. It's commonly known as that. It's curable when you diagnose it early enough, so it's important when you start having those symptoms such as night sweats, persistent coughs, you're feeling tired often and you don't even understand why. It's always important to visit a health facility, get tested and get the proper diagnosis so that doctors or medical personnel can advise you on how best you can do what you're supposed to do to stay healthy. Otherwise, tuberculosis is not a life sentence. Like I mentioned yesterday, it's something that is curable as long as it's detected early enough. Like many other illnesses, really, they always advise when you start feeling those symptoms, that uncomfortability with your body, always go to these health facilities, get tested. Sometimes just walk in the health facility and do a full body count. When last did you do that?
I think
because
I think maybe last year, when you are trying,
because you needed something that
when you need
you
something,
to do
then
something.
you do a full health checkup.
Yes, a full health checkup, but sometimes you have to go. But in developing countries like Zambia, most of the times if you going to the health facility when you're not necessarily sick, it's like a waste of time. You're busy hustling on the streets, moving around here and there. You go to the health facility and spend the whole day there, you will have made a few coins on the street. So we substitute trying to find out how healthy we are to making money and earning a living. We're busy doing that. And, but sometimes diseases are non-communicable. They don't communicate anything, Sometimes you go to the health facility and you find your BP is high. You don't even feel it. You don't even understand anything. We've had people that have had their lives saved just simply by walking into a health facility just to probably check their weight. And then they are told, okay, sit down, let's do a BP checkup. That's blood pressure. And then they find probably it's high or it's too low. and then they're even admitted so that they can stabilize. So those are some of the things that we need to start cultivating in ourselves, is start doing those things, is start visiting these health facilities and ensure that we live healthier lifestyles. Let's look at how the kwacha is faring against the major convertibles.
So we have the euro there buying at 20 kwacha 38 ngwe, selling at 20 kwacha 79 ngwe. The Great British Pound buying at 23 kwacha 13 ngwe, selling at 23 kwacha 15 ngwe. The United States dollar buying at 18 kwacha 58 ngwe, selling at 18 kwacha 95 ngwe. The South African rand buying at 1 kwacha 01 ngwe and selling at 1 kwacha 03 ngwe. And our interest there is actually on the US dollar, which is on the 18 kwacha mark, both on the buying and selling side.
Indeed, it is appreciating. This is a very good sign for us as a country. You know, I always give an example of me, Prudence, and the rest of the crew who buy things online out of the country. The United States dollars is usually a yardstick for this, and equally the rand, because we are a very good business partner with South Africa, and they use the rand. So yeah, those are very good fundamentals for us, and hopefully
it's just bad for people who've been holding on to dollars, hoping they'll change.
Oh, man,
are you one of them? Are you guilty?
No, I almost lost out, but thankfully I was pushed beyond the limit, and I had to
do it quickly.
Yes. Otherwise, today I'll have lost 100 kwacha less. You know, yesterday was at 19, today it's at 18, tomorrow it may be at 16. So yeah, it is appreciating, and these are good signs for us as a country, especially those that are into business from one country to another. The dollar is what is used usually, the United States dollars. However, this is the breakfast show. In case you are just joining us, my name is Sharon Kalimbula, and on the other chair is Zipporah Mushala. She's crashing on this show, however, so she is here. And we hope that we will be able to tap into the knowledge that she always has on Mondays and Tuesdays. Let's look at some of the stories that made headlines as of yesterday. Zipporah? Yeah,
so we did see a press briefing from the Patriotic Front, you know, chaired by the PF acting president, Given Lwinda. And the story reads, the Patriotic Front, PF, has threatened that it will appeal to its party members to start defending themselves if President Hakainde Hichilema does not put an end to political violence. Speaking at a media briefing in Lusaka Wednesday, PF acting Vice President Given Lwinda has accused the United Party for National Development, UPND, of being a violent party, and that the PF will not sit and watch the lawlessness, but join the violence by defending themselves. Meanwhile, Mr. Lwinda has advised the UPND government to set up a commission of inquiry to investigate who benefited from the export of mealie meal, which has resulted in the shortage of the commodity on the Zambian market. And UPND National Trustee Grace Chibube says PF is a dead party and cannot guide President Hakainde Hichilema on how to rule the country.
Let's also look at the story for the director spokesperson who also responded to that. I think this press briefing gave them shivers, you know.
We saw
so many reactions from
the same day, because normally we see that the reactions come after some days, but it was just like, it's as if they were just watching. Like once the PF were done,
obviously they
said, no, we also want to react to this. And yeah, so we also did a story. We also did see a story from Mr. Tabo Kawana, and it reads, Ministry of Information and Media Director spokesperson Tabo Kawana says there is no need to set up a commission of inquiry to investigate who benefited from the export of maize, as requested by opposition leader Given Lwinda. Mr. Kawana says Zambian businessmen and women have been benefiting from the export of maize after meeting the requirement to export. And Mr. Kawana has rubbished claims that the country has run out of maize stock, adding that the Food Reserve Agency as of 6th April 2023 had a total stock of 343,965 metric tons of maize, and that the country remains food secure. He, however, says the food security in the country is being threatened by illegal smuggling of the commodity, which he says government is fighting head-on to ensure that no mealie meal is illegally exported. So that was the response.
Indeed,
there.
very elaborate there, Zipporah. Different stakeholders commenting on the issue of millimil. It is our staple in Zambia, and therefore people are calling for government to make it as cheap as possible, as affordable as possible to the people, because they may not have bread, they may not have pizzas, they may not have these fancy foods, fries or potatoes or whatever. But if they don't have shima, millimil, it becomes an issue. And of late, we've seen a number of people commenting on these different stakeholders. We've seen long queues of people lining up to buy the commodity. We've seen chain stores not having the commodity as it has. But to some extent, I just feel people could probably be exaggerating. I'm not sure. What's your say? What's happening in your area? Do you have millimil in your area? Do you have this precious commodity that is equivalent to gold? Equivalent to gold and copper, because the way we are complaining about it, let's try and find solutions to this. What should government do really? Should they continue exporting? Should they continue importing? Should they do whatever, But according to one person I spoke to, they are an expert in this field. They told me, millimil shortage is usually experienced during the rain season. If you take stock of the shortage period, even in the previous administration and the previous administration, it's always been during this rainy season. There's always a shortage, there's always this back and forth, but then the situation always normalizes. However, people always want to have the loudest voices, especially those with opposing views. Let's look at these two clips, and when we return, we will discuss these stories. You too can have your say and call us on the numbers that are scrolling on your screen, or you can send us those text messages. We will be able to read them and have a conversation with you. Let's look at these stories.
The current political violence that has been witnessed in the country in the upcoming by-elections in Muchindi Ward of Serenje District and Chilawombe Township on the Copper Belt has left many stakeholders wondering why violence has continued to characterize most elections in Zambia. The opposition Patriotic Front PF acting Vice President Given Lubinda has however threatened that if the president fails to tame the UPND cadres and end violence, the party will be left with no choice but to ask the party members to start defending themselves and attacking back when they are attacked.
We want to remind everybody that violence begets violence. Christ's blood cries out for more blood. And those who are occasioning such blood spillage will take total responsibility when others defend their blood. Yeah. If the Commander-in-Chief of the Defense Forces of Zambia and the police, who by law were established to maintain peace and order in the country, are going to allow the maiming of opposition political parties because of their arrogance of power, they leave us no choice whatsoever but to defend ourselves. Yeah. And defend ourselves we shall.
And in commenting on the current shortage of millimil that has seen government sign a statutory instrument to allow the import of duty-free millimil into Zambia, Mr. Lubinda has called on the government to set up a commission of inquiry to investigate who benefited from the export of millimil, which has resulted in the shortage of the commodity on the Zambian market, affecting many poor families.
We do not just hand over instruments of power, we also handed over to them 1.5 million metric tons of maize. August 2021. But for them, when they saw the maize, they also saw the dollar sign. In the mismanagement of our maize, I would like him to set up a commission of inquiry. Can we know who made those decisions? Can we know who benefited?
And in responding to Mr. Lubinda, United Party for National Development National Trustee Grace Chivuba has reminded the PF that they were voted out of office because they failed the people of Zambia, and says they do not have what it takes to advise President Hakainde Hichilema how he should rule the country.
UPND balibe violence. Ngati penza kuchitika violence kumbuyo between UPND and PF ni shindimo matita provoke. bagiven Lubinda na PF mwayimala kuti during your term of office bantu sibenze kuchitagaza bakachitagaza kuti bakambe ma meeting unless balina Bible monga bapempera vose pamene mukamba simuza unless kutribe kwamene munachokera but full time Zambian 100% asiba kuti vose pamene mukamba nivaboza kuma Zambia.
With only 3 years before Zambians can get to the polls and vote for their next leader, the ruling UPND has to prove to the Zambian people why they should be given another tenure of office, while the Patriotic Front and other opposition political parties must convince the Zambian people what makes them the next preferred choice to take over. Prudence Jota, reporting for Camnet TV News.
The Constituency Development Fund CDF in Zambia is considered as the blueprint for development and a potential equalizer for urban and rural areas. Minister of Local Government and Rural Development Garin Kombo has boasted that the United Party for National Development UPND administration is the first to truly work the decentralization agenda through increasing the CDA from 1.6 million kwacha to 25.7 million kwacha in 2022 and 28.3 million kwacha in 2023. The minister states that key on the 2023 agenda is the construction of chiefs' palaces and the procurement of at least 1 ambulance and 1 police vehicle in each constituency. He was addressing the media at the Ministry of Information and Media Wednesday morning.
So under this flagship program of the Constituent Development Fund, we decided deliberately that this year we are going to build 156. That's our target. 100, at least 1 palace in every constituency, so that that matter is put on the side and is left not to be attended for many, many years to come. It is our desire that we are going to build our Royal Highnesses at least a minimum of a 4-bedroom house, 2 cottages for the retainers, 1 courtroom for them to adjudicate on matters of the chiefdoms. And these palaces are all going to be installed with a borehole that is propelled by solar energy, so that they can have waterborne toilets inside the palaces.
Mr. Nkombo further asked that while 100% of the 2022 CDF was released, not 100% of it was used due to rigidities. He reveals that the ministry is working towards reducing the constraints in 2023 and ensuring that procurement is improved through digitalizing the process.
One of the things that continue to haunt us today is that of attitude and cultural change, especially in the Department of Procurement. This is where corruption normally resides. And I'm glad to tell you that we have preached the song, we have preached the message to our people in procurement, that we shall no longer tolerate people who are going to overprice commodities and goods for pecuniary benefit. We have made ourselves very clear on that fact, that whoever is going to be caught out making unnecessary delays, because now we have also gone electronic in terms of procurement. There are now systems that we put in place to make sure that the human factor in procurement does not take the center stage, whilst realizing that our main goal and the benchmark that we've set for ourselves is that we are going to put our Zambian citizens #1 priority to get these contracts.
The minister has further expressed optimism that more of the fund will be used in 2023 as complex and council secretaries will be given power to approve small projects. Zipporah Mshala, Camnet News, Lusaka.
Firstly, we see that the opposition Patriotic Front is asking that the president should constitute a commission of inquiry to find out, #1, who benefited from the export of the maize. The answer is that the Zambian traders benefited from the export of maize, especially those that sought permission or export permits from the relevant government departments. Those benefited and they are Zambians. The opposition also wants to know how Zambia, that was food secure and had enough maize stock, no longer has maize. I think you want to make it very clear that the country remains food secure. The total that FRA is sitting on as of 6th April is 343,965 metric tons of maize. So the country remains food secure, and we have the maize, and it is there. The appetite of the commodity of mealie meal outside there in the neighboring markets will remain high. To avert that, the government has also allowed that the private sector should be able to bring in mealie meal from whichever country they can bring it in from, duty-free, and they can in turn export it. So they import it to export it.
Thank you for staying tuned in. Just now transition into our interview, and we do officially open our phone line, so you can call us on the numbers that are scrolling on your screen, or leave us a message on Facebook. We are discussing current affairs, among them the cost of mealie meal in the country, violence at the ongoing ward by elections slated for 20th April 2023, and many other issues in the country. Just yesterday we heard the Patriotic Front, accusing the ruling United Party for National Development of failing to live up to its campaign promises. What is your take on what is happening in the country? And we have been joined by Advocates for People's Prosperity, APP President Mr. Mwinya Msenge, to help us discuss today's interesting topic. Good morning, Mr. President.
Good morning. Good morning, viewers.
And maybe just how was your Easter period out there? Like, this is the first time that the viewers are seeing you after a long, long time. Maybe you can just take some time to greet them.
Yeah, well, the Easter period was a period for reflection, and to some of us took time to go and seek the intervention of our Heavenly Father through His Son Jesus Christ to really help us with the Zambian people, to lift us out of this quagmire in which we found ourselves in. And it is my prayer that our God has never failed us, and I believe that serious intervention will definitely come in. And it is my prayer and my appeal to men and women of God to really put this country into prayer. Because when you look at how things are emanating, you start to become scared for our own selves. The shortage of mealie meal, the shortage of our national staple food is a catalyst. It's a catalyst for a lot of things. It's a catalyst that can bring upheavals in the country. It is a catalyst that can make people rise. We have seen it before, and we know the repercussions that it had, and we wouldn't want to go back into that. It's so unfortunate that our colleagues in government have taken so long to settle. And the Zambian people are now losing hope. Their expectations are nowhere to be realized. And I think it is important that His Excellency the President and his team quickly take time to reflect and look at ways of how they can be able to improve the welfare of our people.
This is not the first time, Mr. Msenge, that the country is experiencing a mealie meal shortage. Haven't we learned enough on ways to finding solutions so that this does not keep reoccurring as it is?
Indeed, indeed, I totally agree with you. And I was a provincial minister for Copper Belt for over a period of 5 years or so, and we did encounter such. And I recall very well at one time, we had instructed the ZNS and the police officers to try and control the smuggling of melamine. And I was called to State House by then His Excellency, the late President, Mr. Michael Chilufya-Sata, and he told me he was not in support of that. And he said, whatever you're seeing is leaking out of the country is not the major source of shortages within the country. Why should you deny your neighbors to access melamine? So we had to abandon that. And for sure, it didn't take long. Everything got back to normal. What we are seeing in this new Dawn administration is unprecedented. It has never happened before. And I can tell you that from the onset, the Ministry of Agriculture, where we have, of course, the Food Reserve Agency, mishandled the whole process. First, when they came into government, I think there was so much excitement. They came and saw the reserves that were there, and then they were probably misled and informed, there will be, every year, we usually get a bumper harvest. Mm-hmm. So we can get rid of this maize, make a bit of money to try and cushion whatever they felt they could do at that particular time, because they were claiming there was no money in the government coffers. So they went ahead and offloaded the maize. They exported the maize. And I want to mention here without fear of fail that this is one of the major scandals that has always been happening at the Ministry of Agriculture. Whether in the previous administration, other administrations, we know very well that there has always been serious maize scandals on a yearly basis. And people have amassed a lot of wealth out of those transactions. The issue of maize, the issue of fertilizer, all these are in the Ministry of Agriculture. And there hasn't been a deliberate step to try and create or ring fence this ministry, make sure that there are serious controls to make sure that there are no leakages. But the truth of the matter, the Ministry of Agriculture has not really helped us. And we had anticipated that probably with the new government, they were going to bring in controls. They know these things. And the truth of the matter is they are also benefiting from the same. Today, the Minister of Agriculture tells you, no, we have enough reserves. Even if we export a bit of this maize, we will still be safe. Mm-hmm. Tomorrow, the same person changes and says, no, we'll open the doors for importation.
For importation.
Yesterday, we are hearing of how now they are saying, no, whatever we are importing is not for local consumption, but for export again. So you really don't know what to take from our colleagues. Because you don't really know what they're talking about. You don't know what guidance was there.
It's a hive of confusion.
Yes, indeed. And this is the right time where you expect the pilot of the plane to speak to the passengers. We expect the president to address the nation, to tell us what's going on. Even in a plane, when you are now approaching turbulences, it is not the air hostesses that will speak to the passengers. It is the captain of the plane who will now tell you, can you please back on tighten your belts. Mm-hmm. We are about to approach this. So we expect the president, to address these serious concerns. These are very, very serious concerns. Apart from that, we have been observing that the gap between the poor and the rich is also widening. Mm-hmm. The poverty levels are extreme. They've reached a point where you can really, really shed tears. We are not, in fact, you, our colleagues in the media, you are not going out there to bring out. Maybe this government needs to be shown on your screens to see how people are suffering there. When you go there and see what type of food our people are eating, it's unbelievable. It's unbelievable. So really, our colleagues, where are they? What are they doing? We need them to come down, be with the people, and address.
What is the solution to this?
Well, first and foremost, they have to own up that they've made a mistake. Secondly, they need to open the doors wide. We need to know. You know, you should be giving factual information. How much maize do we have in our reserves in the country? We need to know. Secondly, the maize that you are offloading, why don't you give us that information publicly so that we know which millers are getting this maize from FRA and where are they taking these, when they mill, where is this mill going? So that we know exactly where this problem is coming from. Because if we have the reserves, why should there be shortages?
But Mr. Msenge, there's been a lot of smuggling, according to the information on the ground, and a lot of videos have emanated, especially those going to the DRC, where even small vehicles like the Corollas of that world, you know, at least the smallest car there is, you know, packing all sorts of bags of melamine in there into the neighboring countries. They're calling it smuggling, really. Maybe they were trying to make it sound better by saying we are allowing the import or export of this commodity. Don't you think this artificial, this thing is causing this, what they are calling artificial shortage? Because people are making business out of this precious commodity, as we call it.
No, but they are just blowing it out of context.
Who is blowing it?
The government, when they are talking about smuggling. The major smugglers, let me tell you one thing. It is a very well-known fact that there are big players involved in the smuggling of mineral. We have information that there are certain big individuals who are going to South Africa in the pretext that they are importing mineral from South Africa for export to Congo. Meanwhile, they are only importing maybe about 100 or 200 bags of mineral. What they are importing into Zambia are branded bags of those particular milling companies. And when they come into Zambia, they buy in bulk the local mineral and repack it. And then they take it across. The permit for just transversing through Zambia into Congo, when you have imported mineral from anywhere outside Zambia, it costs 500 kwacha at the Ministry of Agriculture. For a truck laden with 6,000 bags of mineral, 500 kwacha. And that truck goes. One person can have about 10, 15, even 20 trucks. And those trucks, they go through.
Have you reported this since you said you have the information?
Or have you argued?
I've spoken about these things. It is the government which is supposed to pick this information and quickly look into it. The people you are seeing at the borders, Ascendo to Bungo to the 20, Ascendo to the 10, they're just trying to survive. You know, that is very little meal to affect the steady flow of mineral within the country. It is not possible. And whatever we are doing, that is not right. One, I condemn this tendency of grabbing mineral from them and getting their little bicycles and the cars and impound them. No. The government is supposed to come up with a better way, a better approach to that. If you capture those people, sit them down, talk to them, let them understand the repercussion of whatever they are doing, and help them to really, if they have to sell, show them how they are supposed to do it. Give them back their minimum. Give them back their little. Because some of those people, we are all aware that there's high levels of unemployment in this country. Those mining towns, like when you look at Chilabombo, they've survived on nothing else but the so-called smuggling of minimum. All the businessmen in Chilabombo, 80 to 90% of the businessmen in Chilabombo, they've lived on smuggling. Today, you find that it's not only minimum that is being smuggled. Okay? From southern province, village chickens. Every day there are trucks going to Kasumbalesa to export those things. Are they done genuinely? We don't know. Because the Congolese enter Zambia and buy those things from the Zambian side and use Utuma routes and take those things out. The government has gone to sleep. Congo is a bottomless pit when it comes to goods that are locally produced and probably imported. Other countries have taken advantage. You see a lot of trucks coming from Namibia, South Africa. They are going into Congo. Where is Zambia? Who are neighbors? We could have created a better platform so that as a nation we could have been benefiting from them. We should have gauged the amount of consumption or demand by our colleagues in Congo and found a way of producing enough maize that we can exchange on bilateral levels between Zambia and Congo. So all these issues that we are talking about could not even have arisen. So again we are saying it is not late. Why don't the president and his team engage our colleagues in Congo? It's not about denying or blocking our colleagues from accessing the staple food, because even in Congo, this is what they depend on. Okay? So we really need to find a common ground of working together. I would also want to mention that this tendency of always telling people to say, no, start eating cassava, start eating sorghum. I mean, this is uncalled for. Because why should we be reduced to such a level which we have not been brought up at? You know, we believe all along from our childhood, you know, yes, we would eat cassava because that was the food that was found there. But if they had a way, they would buy minimum. So, as a country, it has been established that our staple food is minimum. The government has to make sure that food is provided for. The people of Zambia elect governments or change governments on the staple food. Kaunda went because of Ubunga. The Piket Shala song is very elaborate, very clear. And now, today, it is even becoming more louder. It is becoming more louder. Forget about all these things. Once you make the people food sufficient, people being able to afford to buy a bag of minimum, then you have done it. You have done it. If you are Shala Fiance, you can play the macro economics and what have you, but give the people affordable minimum. I can tell you, my sister, that with all this confusion, at the time that this government is going to come and normalize the minimum saga, the minimum won't be less than 250 kwacha. It won't be. We shall never go back to the 140 or 50, practically impossible. Now, if it will come and stabilize at 230, 240, 250,
it will be too much. Let's pick this call. Hello, good morning.
Hello.
Good morning.
Good morning. How are you?
Fine, thank you. Tell us your name and where you're calling from.
You know she likes girls.
Thank you.
Ndife weno mulishani mayo.
Emwali. Ayama politics muleyangala yalusinali.
Okay.
All right.
Okay.
Emwani. Oh, shame. Just to set the record straight, he's not from the Patriotic Front. You still have that tag, Mr. Something. Please brush it off. Next time you come with your T-shirt for your political party.
APP.
Yeah, but I think she has
a point though.
She made one statement where she was saying the PF have created the surrogate parties that are creating confusion.
And you could be one of them.
They might suspect that maybe I might be one of them.
Yes.
Unfortunately, we are not. What my dear sister doesn't appreciate is that we are in a multi-party dispensation. The politics of Zambia entails that at any given time there will be so many political parties. And our role for us who are in the opposition is to offer checks and balances. And the role of a party in government is to make sure that there is nothing for the opposition to point at. Now, when they've created a platform like this one, where there is shortages of meal, where there is the violence we are talking about at yo number fiapa, now these things are mushrooming up, you expect us to remain quiet. We are there to speak for the people of Zambia. We are there to speak for the silent majority. And if there is anything that we are looking for a better Zambia with, with a proper governance for our country. So our dear sister ought to understand that there is nothing like surrogate parties. There is nothing like the PF trying to bring confusion. Yes, they are now in opposition and they are talking. We are also in opposition. We are talking. The issue of Mirimil was not created by the opposition. Our kwetamaka over this mamayo who take over the government. Ububunga shota all over, and we are seeing pama social medias, pama TVs, and everywhere. Even the government itself has come to accept, to acknowledge that we have a crisis in the country.
All right, in case you are just joining us, we are in conversation with Mr. Mwenya Musenge, who is APP, is it APP? Political party. And you can have your say. We are discussing a number of issues happening in our country, which we have themed current affairs. Mr. Musenge, bringing in the issue of elections. Are you participating in the forthcoming by-elections next week?
We are not participating in these elections. Simple reason is that we are still trying to organize ourselves.
Are you supporting any political party?
We are not supporting any political party. You know, as a political party, we've just been in existence for less than 6 or 4 months or so. So we still have a lot of work to do to try and organize ourselves countrywide. So we felt that it was too early for us to start participating. It was just going to be a waste of resource. But we have actually been following what has been happening in Mwezeti Muchendo, Lupososhi, and of course in Chilawombe. And whatever is happening is very, very unfortunate. Our colleagues, again, we are saying, they were in the opposition for over 23, 24 years. They went through all these persecutions that they are now allowing and exerting on their colleagues who are in the opposition. My humble cry is, why are we not shifting away as a country from this type of politics? They had governance for UPND, they had endured so much pain under the previous administration. And we felt that with the change of government and them coming into government, they were going to make sure that these things were not happening. But they're in the forefront. The first thing the president did was to get rid of cadres. But they are there attacking people and is silent about it. The president himself knows Mumbipiri stayed for so many days in incarceration, an innocent person. The president was talking about his 100 days in, and mind you, maybe the president has forgotten. I spoke against that when he was incarcerated. I went to Chimbokaila. In fact, that was the reason why I was expelled from PF. Was because I never agreed in that. So even now, when I see that YHH is supporting things that are not, legal, we'll stand out. Personally, I'll condemn. So whatever is happening in YHH, please take time to reflect over this and make an enabling Zambian environment where we can work together as opposition political parties and put our heads together. A situation like the one we are going through, a good leader could have taken time to call all political leaders or identify those he feels, to have an interview and discuss how are we going to get out of this. Build a relationship, even with the former president, Mr. Edgar Chagwa Lungu. There is no need to have this acrimonious way of doing things. He is a former leader. Give him the respect that is due to him. Also let him give respect to His Excellency, HH. Put their heads together. What we want is a better Zambia. Improve the welfare of our people. You should not be personal about yourselves.
Mr. Msenge, and I'll take you back a little. I think President Hakainde Hichilema has tried. I'm not sure if it's just word of mouth, but it's not practical. But according to the information that we've been having on our tables as journalists, is that he's been trying to extend an olive branch to ECL, but he declines most of the times. I would cite, he was invited for the Democracy Summit, he didn't pitch. He was also invited for one of the events at State House, he didn't show up. What do you call that? Let's just hold your thought, let's pick the score and then we'll pick it up. Hello, good morning.
Good morning, how are you?
Fine, thank you. Tell us your name and where you're calling from.
I'm calling from California.
Your name, sir? Tell us your name. Oh, our line is not good, but just keep trying. We want to hear your views on this. Yes, I was saying the colleague has tried to, ECO would call him that guy, so I'll say that guy has tried to extend the olive branch, but it's always declined. How much more do you think?
No, but what evidence do we have before the general populace of this country?
But we've seen cards.
Well, it all depends on how you approach. It all depends. I can tell you that you can play to the gallery and create an impression that the president has been trying, or our colleagues in UPND have been trying, and yet in the truth of the matter is that probably there's nothing that is happening.
Okay.
From a distance, you can even be, you are able to see this acrimonious situation. My president is an elder in the Seventh-day Adventist. Yeah. He's an elder in the Seventh-day Adventist. I'm a Seventh-day Adventist as well. And I expected more than what he is doing right now. He still harbors a heart of
vengeance.
Vengeance. He has a burning heart, and he hasn't crossed over. Whatever he says to say, no, I've forgotten, it's okay. But each time he's at a public platform, he's able to remember.
He's playing politics. Isn't that politics?
No, that is not supposed to be politics. What we are supposed to do, you are better off showing, show the leadership and leave it to the people to judge. Leave it to the people. Even when HH was incarcerated, by Edgar, I remember I was telling my PF to say, no, what you have done, this man is going to make marriage. And out of this, you people are going to lose. And this is where they are. I was called names, insulted, and a lot was said, and in the end, expelled out of the party. Here we are. The same thing is happening by UPND. We are telling them. You tell them. There was, I think, a week or 2 weeks ago when I was saying it is boiling on the copper belt. Before this serious shortage of meal even came to the fore. The next thing I got were insults on the social media. But here we are. Go on the copper belt. Now people are even ransacking trucks. Trucks cannot move with meal without the police pitched on the trailer to protect Ubunga. What type of a country are we in now? So there's a lot that needs to be done. In a multi-party dispensation, we expect that all players, whether in government or not in government, are very important, and it is important that we are able to meet at a certain point and discuss issues that are affecting our people in our country. This tendency of saying if you are in opposition, the only politics that you play is to insult those or, play propaganda on a party which is in government, should come to an end. Let's talk about factual issues. Here there is the issue of minimum. Here there is the issue of people dying out of anger. Here there is the issue of the high cost of living in the country. These are serious issues, and the HH and this team must manage it. They should not be thinking, at times, and certain countries should not be, interfering in the running of government of our country. For example, how does Ghana come in and invite our ex president to go to be honored in Ghana as an Adventist? The Adventist church in Ghana wants him to travel there so that they recognize him. You mean we don't have Adventist churches here in Zambia which can recognize him here? Why waste Zambian resources, government resources, taxpayers' money to travel all the way? Why should
good morning.
Hello, good morning.
Good morning, thank you. Tell us your name and where you're calling from.
My name is
Okay. From Solwezi. Okay, kindly speak up. We can hardly hear you. Go ahead with your contribution.
Not coming clear.
You're not coming out very clear, like I mentioned.
Morning, my brother. How are you?
I'm fine, thank you. The first question is that if you are president, how do you sort out this relevance? That's the first question.
Okay.
And then it's like you're shooting that is no market.
There's no what?
The way you're coming out, you're shooting that there's no market. But what is we're able to see part of that in the non-meaning, able to see that language is meaning. Now,
All right, thank you very much for your contribution. So I think maybe to put it clear, they are saying what would you do different to make sure that the minimum issue is sorted out. And the second is like he's saying you are not acknowledging the fact that there is smuggling. I think that was maybe you can just clarify on that. But I think you did state that the chain is bigger.
Yes.
Than what we know, not necessarily that there's no smuggling.
The people who are smuggling are the ones that are causing this shortage.
Serious big players in this business.
Maybe just clarify that.
Those are tiny players you are seeing at the bottom. They're taking advantage of them. Umuntu asende akabunga kamupanu male cross okuya mboda ale across into Congo at your smuggling. And you are leaving people who are carrying over maybe 20, 30 trucks of 6,000 per truck. Crossing Pagoda, Wapito Bunga. So we really need to be serious. Now, when you talk about the issue of when you say if I was in government, yes, if I became president, and which I hope that one day I shall be, the first issue that needs to be administered is to make sure that our people in Zambia are able to have at least a meal on their table every day. And I wanted to re-echo the words that His Excellency the President, Mr. Hakainde Hichilema, once said when he was in opposition, that we shall not allow a situation where our people are going to go to bed without a meal. We will make sure that our people are able to have 3 meals a day. Now, if we ask, it is 2 years down the line now, has that been achieved? Are our people having even a single meal a day? So these are the things that we expect to be done. First and foremost, can we provide for our people? If there is no food, umuntu techa kwacho mweo. No matter what you say, a person becomes a desperate person, a stressed person, when he cannot afford, he cannot provide for himself and for his family. And this is what is happening in the country. That's why we are seeing people now are going out there to even attack trucks that are carrying merry meal, genuinely bought, and it's going to another shop. Everybody ambushed such trucks. Where we are going very soon, it will be uncontrollable. So the government needs to focus on that. And when we come into government, first and foremost is to make sure that ubunga, especially ubunga, should be affordable. He spoke about reducing it to 50 kwacha, of which now they are denying. The Vice President is now telling us, Tampeni kuya roller meal. Even roller meal is unaffordable. Right now, it is not even found in my shops. So, a serious government can just focus on this. Once abantu bakwate fyakulya, batekanya abantu, imitima yaisa panchi, nechalo chilawapa, then you can focus on other things. But if you are going to take a lot of things, put them together on the table of Tampokulalwa Nafio, a situation that we have.
Even as we go towards conclusion, the UPND did make a number of promises. Do you feel they will be attained by 2026? Maybe in just under a minute or so.
1 year, 6 months. We are going towards 2 years. Mm-hmm. The UPND government have gone to sleep. There is nothing much we can talk about. Initially, we were saying they controlled the violence in the country, but we are seeing it mushrooming. We saw recently at one of the bus stations how those main buses were destroyed. That is Kadarism. And we saw what is happening in all these by-elections. These issues are coming back. I feel that the president is losing grip. And secondly, the unemployment levels in this country are just too high. They employed about 30,000 teachers, I don't know, 11,000 health workers. But how many teachers have graduated from all these other training institutions? Nurses, how many have graduated? How many are being employed? So we haven't achieved anything at all. Thirdly, the same teachers, the same nurses, there is no accommodation for them. Mm-hmm. Those who have been sent into rural areas, it is a sorry sight. They are being made to walk long distances. Some are walking about maybe 10 kilometers every day. In the morning, about 5 kilometers. In the evening, 5 kilometers to go to school and come to where they found like a small hut where they are staying. So the Ministry of Education, the government again, it is a minus. Whatever they've done as And apart from that, there are these other fields where they've not even touched. In the agriculture sector, we've trained agriculturalists. Where are they? Languishing the streets. We had advised as APP that the best approach to this situation of high levels of unemployment is to come up with what can be, what we can call as, well, like a small package through the social package that can be given to those that have graduated, the degree holders, the diploma, certificate holders, those with the certificates, and meanwhile they are unemployed. If you are able to give them a surviving allowance of maybe 3,000 kwacha, okay? You allow these people to survive, while you are looking for other avenues where they can be employed or they can be utilized. And once they are employed, these people can be removed from such, you know. It can help to reduce the tension that we are seeing in the country. And apart from that, it will allow such people to start thinking. Because from that 3,000 or probably, 3,500 or 4,000 kwacha that you give to them, some of them might even use it in a better way to sustain themselves, and they may start something else that they may not even think about looking for a job. Okay? So these are some of the things that government is supposed to look at. And as the situation is, they also need to ask themselves, these people are unemployed, who are unemployed, but they've got papers. How are they surviving? You can't simply say, tapali nchito, there's nothing that we can do. Balafu nyakwisobunga. Balafu rent yanganda, where are they going to get money to pay for rent? These are human beings who need to survive. You cannot survive. Takwaba filabalando kutilati. If because you do not have a job, then your body will spare you kutila tawakula mfuensala and tawakula mfama needs yonse. No. The body wants to eat every single moment, second and what have you. So the government must try by all means to come up with a better approach to the issues that are affecting our people. If we are the advocates for people's prosperity, our desire is to make sure that there is no single Zambian that should be should be in poverty, especially in a country where we have so much wealth. It is just mismanagement of it, and a lot of selfishness in political players who, when they go into politics, they become ministers, they become MPs. Their focus is to enrich themselves and not to serve the Zambian people. That's where the problem is. Baleba Sugiraiti, Baleba Godyuko, Baleba Wako, Fionse Fintumuzan, Mukula, Imomwebantu. What type of people are we? I think it is a serious time that people started changing their mindset.
Indeed. Thank you so much, Mr. Mzenge, for gracing our screens. Join us tomorrow on The Business for Breakfast. From me and Zipporah, it's bye for now. Good morning.
Good morning.